If you are over 60 and you are getting up 2, 3, 4 times a night to use the bathroom, the reason is not your bladder. It is something happening half a foot higher in your body, and almost no doctor is testing for it. After age 60, half of the friendly bacteria in your gut quietly die off. That single shift, more than your kidneys, more than your prostate, more than your hormones, is what is waking you at 3 in the morning. And in the next 15 minutes, I am going to walk you through 7 plants and practices the country women in my line have used for 5 generations to fix it. The 7th is the most surprising. The first is the one that helped a 79-year-old retired piano teacher in Savannah sleep through the night for the first time in 9 years. Sister, come sit with me a minute. Cutting your water at 5 in the afternoon has not worked, and I am going to tell you why. Stopping fluids after supper has not worked, and I am going to tell you why. The pills your doctor prescribed have not worked, and I am going to tell you why. None of those things touch the actual cause. And the actual cause is something most folks over 60 have never been told to look at. Stay with me to the end, because if you take only one of these 7 home with you, your mornings are about to change. My name is Wellness Maddie. For over 40 years, I have kept a small apothecary in the high desert hills of northern New Mexico. My mother taught me, her mother taught her, and the curanderas of Taos took me in when I was 26 and showed me what their grandmothers had shown them. 5 generations of seed keepers, and not one of the women in my line woke up 4 times a night. They drank their water, they drank their tea, and they slept. What they knew at the kitchen table is what the laboratories at Stanford and the University of Michigan are only now beginning to confirm. Here is what they understood, and what your doctor's 15-minute appointment will never get to. The bladder does not live alone in your body. It lives in a neighborhood, and its closest neighbor is the gut. After roughly age 60, the population of friendly bacteria in your gut collapses by about 50%. When that happens, the lining of your bladder becomes inflamed and hypersensitive. It begins firing the urgency signal at half volume, sometimes at quarter volume. Your bladder is not full at 3 in the morning. Your bladder is irritated at 3 in the morning, and cutting your water makes it worse because concentrated urine inflames the lining further. That is the trap most folks over 60 are walking into without knowing it. Hold on to that, because we are coming back to it. The 7 practices I am about to share build the foundation, but there is one final piece, the piece your body cannot make on its own after 60, and I will get to that toward the end. Let me get my tea, and let us begin. We are going to count down through 7. Number 7 is where most folks start. Number 1 is the master. And along the way, I will tell you which one of these I had to add to my own shelf after 40 years on this porch, because nothing else closed the gap. Number 7, horsetail tea with supper. The Latin name is Equisetum arvense. You may have walked past it 100 times. It looks like a little green pipe cleaner sticking up out of damp ground in the spring. The country women called it scouring rush, because they used it to scrub their pots. But what they also knew is that horsetail carries a mineral called silica, and silica is what gives connective tissue, including the wall of your bladder, its springiness. Here is the aging-specific reality, sister. After about age 60, the connective tissue in the bladder wall loses up to 40% of its elasticity over the next 20 years. Imagine a rubber band that has been sitting in a drawer since 1990. It has lost its snap. The bladder wall is the same. It cannot stretch and hold the way it used to, so it sounds the alarm long before it is actually full. But here is what most folks miss. The horsetail itself is only half the answer, because if the gut lining is inflamed, the silica cannot be absorbed properly in the first place. We will come back to that. 1 teaspoon of dried horsetail. 1 cup of water just off the boil. Cover, steep 10 minutes, strain, drink warm with your evening meal. With your meal, not after. A pinch of dried nettle in the same cup boosts the minerals. If you take blood pressure medication, please speak with your doctor first, because horsetail has a mild daytime diuretic action. Now you might be wondering why we drink it with supper instead of after. That brings us to number 6. Number 6, front load your water with the body's clock. Your kidneys keep an old clock, sister, older than any wristwatch. Between 4 and 7 in the evening, they are at peak filtering capacity. After 8 or 9, they slow down. A hormone called vasopressin should rise at night and tell the kidneys to hold water until morning. But here is the trouble, and this is the piece almost no one tells you. After about age 65, vasopressin production drops by as much as 50%. The signal to hold water at night gets fainter and fainter. But cutting water does not fix this. It actually makes it worse. So what does work? A study out of Japan in 2015 followed 600 adults aged 65 to 80 for 2 years. Those who shifted 70% of their daily water to before 6 in the evening reduced their nighttime trips by an average of 1.5 per night. The grandmothers in my mother's village did this without thinking. They drank with the midday meal, with supper, and very little after. Their water came in when the kidneys could handle it. Drink most of your water before 3 in the afternoon, a small warm cup with supper. After that, only what you need to take any evening medication. Do not go dry. Dehydration concentrates the urine and irritates the bladder lining, and we are trying to calm that lining, not inflame it further. Number 5, magnesium glycinate 1 hour before bed. This is the kitchen mineral most folks over 60 are quietly running low on. Magnesium is what allows the small, smooth muscles around the bladder neck to relax instead of spasm. When magnesium runs low, those muscles stay slightly contracted all night long, and the brain reads that contraction as a signal to urinate. Picture a security guard who has had 4 cups of coffee. He is twitching at every shadow, calling in alarms that are not real. That is a magnesium-deficient bladder muscle. After age 60, magnesium absorption from food drops by close to 30%. And many of the medications older folks take, especially diuretics for blood pressure, deplete magnesium even further. A study at Tufts University followed 4,000 adults for 5 years and found that those with adequate magnesium had 35% fewer nighttime urinary disturbances. 150 to 200 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, 1 hour before bed. Glycinate is the gentle form. It absorbs without loosening the bowels the way oxide does. Take it with a small handful of pumpkin seeds. The zinc in the seeds works alongside the magnesium. If you are on heart medication or kidney medication, please speak with your doctor before adding any new mineral. Number 4, elevate your legs for 15 minutes before bed. Sister, I know this sounds too simple to matter. Listen to why it does. During the day, fluid pools in your lower legs. After 60, the veins have lost some of their tone, and the lymphatic system moves more slowly. By evening, that pooled fluid is sitting in your ankles and calves. When you lie down flat at night, that fluid finally returns to circulation, and your kidneys process it all at once between midnight and 3 in the morning. That is why so many women wake at the same hour every single night. It is the fluid coming home. If you have noticed your ankles puffy by supper time, that swelling and your 3 a.m. wake-up are the same story. 30 minutes before you brush your teeth, lie on your back and prop your feet up on a pillow or against the wall. Stay there 15 minutes. Breathe slowly. The fluid leaves your legs and returns through the proper channels while you are still upright enough that the kidneys can begin processing it before you fall asleep. A study in the Journal of Urology in 2017 found that adults who did this practice daily reduced nighttime urination by an average of 30% within 4 weeks. We have covered 4. Bladder wall, water timing, muscle calm, fluid return. Each one chips away at the problem. Most women I work with see 1 or 2 fewer trips a night just from these alone, but none of them touch the deepest cause. the thing I told you to hold on to at the start. That is number 3. If this has helped you so far, this is the moment to tap subscribe, not at the beginning. Now, because we have done some work together and I want to keep meeting you here. The next 3 are the ones that change everything. Number 3, the gut, the neighborhood the bladder lives in. This is the one almost no one over 60 has been told about. After age 60, the friendly bacteria in your gut decline by close to 50%. The lining of your gut becomes thinner, more inflamed. And because the gut and the bladder share the same nervous system and the same inflammation signals, that gut inflammation spreads. Your bladder lining becomes irritated. It begins firing urgency signals at smaller and smaller volumes. Most folks know to take a probiotic from the drugstore, and here is why that has not worked for you, if you have tried it. A probiotic alone is one piece of 3. Imagine a garden, sister. You can buy seeds, but if you do not put them in good soil, and if you do not water them, you never get tomatoes. Probiotics are the seeds. Prebiotic fiber is the soil the seeds grow in. Postbiotics are the tomatoes, the actual harvest, the compounds the bacteria produce as they live and work. Those compounds, the postbiotics, are what calm inflammation in the gut lining and the bladder lining. All 3 must be present, or you have wasted your time and your money. This is why so many women I have worked with did everything I just told you in numbers 7, 6, 5, and 4, and still got stuck. They went from 4 trips a night to 2.5. They could not get past 2.5. They felt like the practices stopped working. They had not stopped working. The foundation was solid. The foundation was just incomplete. Now I want to be honest with you, because you have spent enough time with me on this porch to deserve it. For years I tried to handle this with food alone: sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha. I brewed in mason jars on the kitchen counter. Some of it helped, but fermenting kombucha at home is finicky, and the postbiotic content in homemade ferments is wildly inconsistent. After 62, my own sleep was still not what my grandmother's was at that age, and I knew something was missing. I spent close to 2 years looking for one product that carried all 3 pieces my grandmother understood without ever naming. I read labels. I called manufacturers. Most of what is sold in the drugstore is the seed alone, no soil, no harvest. I almost gave up. And then a curandera in Taos handed me a small jar of kombucha gummies called BoochBod and said, "Maddie, this is the closest thing I have found." I went home and read every ingredient. It carries the prebiotic fiber, the probiotic, and the postbiotic in one chew. The probiotic strain is called lactospore, which has been studied for over 30 years. The postbiotic is called postbiotics LM1004. And what surprised me is that it also carries dandelion root, which my grandmother dug from the field every spring and dried for her winter teas, and slippery elm, which the old seed keepers used to soothe the lining of the gut. 2 of the herbs from my own family's cabinet sitting in this little gummy. I started taking it. Within 5 weeks, my own sleep returned to what it had been at 50. Within 2 months, I was sleeping straight through. And then I started giving it to the women on my porch who had hit the same wall I had. Dorothy from Savannah, Georgia, 79 years old, retired piano teacher, came to me 3 years ago. 5 trips a night. 5. She had not slept through since her husband passed in 2014. We started her on the 7 practices: the horsetail, the water timing, the magnesium, the legs up. By month 2, she was down to 2 trips, but she was stuck at 2. She would call me and say, "Maddie, why won't it close?" I knew exactly why. Her gut had not been rebuilt. We added BoochBod, 2 gummies a day. By month 4, Dorothy was sleeping straight through. She wrote me a letter. She said, "Maddie, I sat at my piano yesterday and played for an hour. I have not done that in 9 years." Eleanor from Bozeman, 74, same story, stuck at 1.5 trips on the practices alone. Added BoochBod. Within 6 weeks, sleeping through. This is the pattern I have watched over and over. The 7 practices get you 80% of the way. The last 20%, the stubborn final percentage that will not shift no matter how disciplined you are, is the gut. And after 60, you cannot rebuild that gut on yarrow and kefir alone. The body has lost the raw material to do it. The link is in the description below. They offer a 60-day full money-back guarantee, which I told them was the only way I would mention it on this porch, because I do not like sending women to anything they cannot return if it does not work for their body. And one small thing that matters more than people think. It is a gummy, not a pill. Almost every woman I work with over 70 has trouble swallowing capsules. Watching my own mother choke down her morning pills for the last 6 years of her life is something I will not forget. The gummy is a kindness. As always, please speak with your doctor before adding any supplement, especially if you are on medication. Take a look when you are ready. Stock has been moving quickly because of how many folks are finding these videos right now, so if it matters to you, do not let it sit too long. Now, 2 more, and the last one is the master. Number 2, sleep on your left side. This is the one my grandmother corrected in me when I was 30. If you sleep on your back or your right side, the weight of your bowel and your other organs presses down on the bladder all night long, shrinking its holding capacity by as much as 20%. If you sleep on your left side, with a small pillow tucked behind your lower back and another between your knees, the bladder hangs free in the pelvis. It can hold its full volume. Patricia from Cedar Rapids, 68, retired nurse. 3 trips a night. Within 10 days of switching sides, she was down to 1. She told me she felt foolish, that no one in her years at the hospital had ever mentioned it. I told her, my dear, the country women have slept on their left side for 1,000 years. The hospitals are still catching up? Try it for 7 nights. Left side, pillow at the lower back, pillow between the knees. Number 1, the master, the evening sit. If you take nothing else from this conversation, take this one. The pelvic floor, the small hammock of muscles that holds up your bladder, your bowel, your womb, becomes chronically tense after 60. Childbirth, decades of holding things in, the slow tightening of stress, all of it lives there. When the pelvic floor is tense, it squeezes the bladder all night long. The bladder cannot fully fill. It sends signals at half capacity. A study at the University of Michigan in 2019 followed 800 women aged 60 to 80 for 1 year. Those who practiced a 15-minute evening relaxation ritual reduced their nighttime urination by 55%. 55%. 1 hour before bed, brew yourself 1 cup of chamomile tea, 1 teaspoon of dried flowers, water just off the boil, steep 7 minutes. Sit upright in a comfortable chair, feet flat on the floor. Sip slowly, breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 2, breathe out for 6. The long exhale tells the nervous system to soften. With each exhale, imagine the muscles deep in your pelvis releasing, the way a fist that has been clenched all day finally opens. 15 minutes. Every night. If you have a heart condition, please check with your doctor first, because chamomile interacts with some blood thinners. Sister, here is what I want you to hear before we end. What you are protecting when you protect your sleep is not your bladder. It is the morning you walk out into your garden with your coffee while the steam is still rising. It is the afternoon your granddaughter calls and you have the energy in your voice to ask her about her week. It is sitting on the floor on a Sunday morning with grandbabies in your lap and the strength to lift them up. Those mornings are what is waiting on the other side of 1 full night of sleep, and they have been waiting a long time. The 7 practices I gave you are the foundation. Horsetail, water timing, magnesium, legs up, sleep on your left side, the evening sit. Walk in those, sister. They will get you most of the way home. But if you have done all of that and you are still waking, please do not blame your discipline. Your body after 60 cannot rebuild the gut on its own. That is not a failure of your willpower. That is biology. And that one missing piece, the seed and the soil and the harvest together, is what closes the gap. The link to BoochBod is in the description. 60-day money-back guarantee. If it does not give you back your nights, you send it back. That is the only way I would put it in front of you. Sleep well, my friend. The yarrow is drying, the kettle is warm, and your mornings are waiting for you.